friends. I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet on this incredible, amazing, outstanding Friday. Get all the tubes connected. Before the week closes out, we got business to attend to. And it looks like the tubes are connected. We got some schmedium shirt comments already in the house, which is perfect. That means the tubes are working just as they should. And that means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about Donald Trump and his trials. Of course, we're going to take a look at what's happening over in New York because we've been following this prosecution brought by Letitia James, trying to take away Trump's businesses and, smatter his life's work into bits. And today, Trump is saying, when he's out there, he's giving some interviews, and he was actually doing a long-form interview recently, and a couple of good clips came out of this one, where he says, if all these people are going to be coming after the Trump organization, the Trump family, Donald Trump personally, the kids, the lawyers, everybody who's involved, we'll see if they go after his doctors and maybe his kindergarten teacher at some point. But you get the point, right? They have been going after all of him, and he's saying, well, when I win, when I'm back in charge of the White House, we might see some indictments in reverse. Put it right in the reverse and screech it right on back there and maybe indict everybody who's been indicting him. Because as we know, once you break glass, once you start prosecuting your political opponents, really in any country, you start to see that is now a tool of governance. And that's a big problem. The Democrats broke glass. And here we are, Trump saying, we might have to get back to it. Maybe they'll see the pendulum swing back their way. So we'll go into that. Trump is very, I think, I would say he's very fortified that people see it, that all of us out here, and even those who are not here with us, can see what they're doing to him and how unfair and how partisan it is and how really anti-American it is. And so he seems like he's fortified and he's feeling good that the people are going to recognize all this nonsense for what it is. We've also got a clip from Eric Trump, and then we'll wrap up our first segment talking about Representative Elise Stefanik's Engoron complaint. She sent in a PDF or a letter over into the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct, and she's complaining about Judge Engoron. You know him as Judge Arthur, aka Judge Areola Engoron, who, sending very interesting torso photos, bonus torso photos to his high school newsletter. So weird stuff going on there. Anyways, she filed a complaint against him, making her one of the only Republicans who's done anything meaningful about any of these weaponized prosecutions. And so we'll see what Representative Stefanik had to say in her complaint. We'll go through that one in detail. Then we're going to turn our attention over to what's happening in Florida, the classified documents case. We were waiting on a ruling on this one. And earlier in the week, I think it was this week, we did a full video, a 41-minute video on the chaos in the Trump classified documents case. And we got the transcript over courtesy of our friend Julie Kelly. And Julie Kelly was kind enough to, sort of report on what happened inside the courtroom. And they were battling over trial deadlines and whether the trial in the classified documents case was really going to happen before the election or happen after the election. And then there's a bunch of other deadlines that come before that because we're talking about SIPA and the Classified Information Procedures Act. And so a lot of deadlines happening. And after the hearing took place, Andrew Weissmann, who, you know him from MSNBC and elsewhere, this guy, he's on a podcast where it's called Prosecuting Donald Trump, man. And he was fired up. He was very angry about what he saw happen in the Cannon courtroom because he thought that maybe Cannon was going to postpone this case until after the election, blah, blah, blah. And so we'll see now that Cannon ultimately issued an order. We'll go through it in detail. She kind of split this a bit. She said that the trial is not going to be postponed, and so we'll break that down. But some of the deadlines are. And as we know, some of the deadlines means that there might be some problems with the deadlines, right? We're going to get to the deadline. There'll be a hearing, and we'll say, we need more time because they didn't give us this. We have to litigate that. And then once the deadline comes, then we'll see if we can pick up the trial and postpone it once again after the election. So we're going to see she's kind of splitting it here, getting a little clever about it. And we'll see what Weissmann said because he was very upset about the hearing. But the judge didn't really do kind of what, I think he was fearing she would do. So we'll see what's going on in Florida. because as always, there's some good stuff there. And then we're going to take a look at this brothel case. All right, there's this little situation happening there in Washington, D.C. A bunch of politicians are nervous over there because apparently the high-end network of sophisticated escorts that were surfacing Washington, D.C. has been busted. The Department of Justice came out. There was a release from the District of Massachusetts, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they came out and they said, we've indicted 3 people, all connected to some very, Hunter Biden-esque type of things. And so we're going to go through the affidavit and the criminal complaint that was drafted by the special agent who was investigating this. And a lot of people were commenting about this, saying this is very interesting timing, isn't it? You've got Matt Gaetz, who was trying to get the FBI defunded, their new $300 million headquarters. And when he was there trying to get this amendment stopped, they published this story about all of these, or the theory is maybe they're threatening some of the Congress people, okay? Like they're twisting the Congress people's arms to go and vote against Matt Gaetz and his amendment to defund the FBI. So we'll break it all down. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I get so excited, it's like, I'm like, Rob, don't do the segment. We're in the beginning of the show. I'm not in the segment yet. Relax. All right. And so you can see, my friends, we've got a lot to get to today. We got 3 segments. We're excited that you are here and joining us. It's a beautiful Friday. This morning, we had an amazing members-only stream where we talked about this little Mitt Romney, Joe Manchin situation that's happening. Look at these two. They're just like, practically holding hands here. Hey, Mitt, you're looking really independent today. You too, Joe. You're looking beautiful. And so the question is, are they running together, right? They're doing these little media appearances, like they're skipping together, like in a pharmaceutical commercial or something. And they're just really excited about, I guess, not being in the Senate. They're going to do a bunch of good work between now and then. We'll see what it looks like. So we had some fun with that this morning. And then we also learned this morning on our members-only stream that Senator Blackburn from the great state of Tennessee threatened a subpoena and really caused this whole judiciary hearing to go awry in the Senate. That took place yesterday. It was a lot of fun, man. She came out. She's like, all right, you want to subpoena Judge Thomas on the Supreme Court? How about this? Epstein logs and more Epstein logs. And she had like a list of like 6 things. We're getting this and this and this and this and this. And you could see all those senators like nervous in their seats, like about to pop over there because they're like, ooh, what do you mean? The Epstein flight logs. I never flew over there. And so we had some fun with that. If you're not a member, those segments will be coming out later on. If you are a member, of course, you joined us, hopefully, for that. And we have a lot of fun with our members. If you want to become a member, be sure to come and join us. WatchingTheWatchers.locals.com is the place to be. We do streams in the morning. We do after parties after the show is here. So you stick around at Locals, and we'll see you after the show's over. We also have Saturday streams, and so see you tomorrow on Saturday, which we will not do elsewhere. So come and join us, WatchingTheWatchers.locals.com. If you're a YouTube member, you get all the same things, except we ask that you join us on Telegram for the members-only after party when the show is over. That way you can join us. We also have a website, robertgovea.com. If you want to access the mind map or any of the things that you see on your screen, this is how you can do it. Go to robertgovea.com, sign up for our daily newsletter. You'll get the daily show notes. You'll get the mind map link delivered to your inbox. Just click this link for instant access, and boom, you'll get it. You can also, if you want to just see what's going on, kind of read a report about the show segments, you can click the reports tab, and you'll see all of these are the segments that we're aggregating. And then when you click it, you'll see you can either watch the video or read the report. And if there are documents, like in this one, you'll see that you can actually see the red lines that we've actually done on the show. So you can actually read through the document, get the red lines, and join us at robertgovea.com. And we're working hard on it, and we're grateful for you signing up for our newsletter. Now, my friends, before we get into the show, now I want to make sure that we pause and honor and remember our veterans. Tomorrow is officially Veterans Day, but today it is being honored since it is a Saturday tomorrow. We will not be here on a stream tomorrow. And so I wanted to share this before we jump into everything. This is a beautiful email that we got here from a friend of ours who's part of our community and said the following. It's very beautiful. I wanted to share it with you. It says, Rob, so in honor of our Veterans Day, I'd like to share and ask a favor. Our local American Legion in Tempe, named after a young man. Man's name is James Witkowski. He was from the Valley, and in 2005, James was part of a unit of a convoy in Afghanistan moving between the bases. And they were passing through a small village when they were ambushed by insurgents. They were armed with handguns, grenade launchers. At a certain point in the engagement, a grenade landed in Sergeant Witkowski's Humvee. Without hesitation, James threw himself over the grenade. He was able to shield the others in the vehicle from the blast, and they survived with very minor injuries. Sergeant Witkowski saved the soldiers in the vehicle and quite possibly countless others, as his vehicle was able to proceed, returning fire that allowed the rest of his unit to continue to their final destination. He was posthumously awarded the Silver Star later that same year. A few members of his namesake post sat talking one day in 2013 about how to not let the sacrifice of James be forgotten. A Vietnam vet grabbed a pen, scrawled out the 4 lines below onto a cocktail napkin, and what is known as the 7 o'clock toast was born. These words not only honor James, but everyone that has ever answered the call to serve our country. Every Friday night at 7, everything is silence and everyone is present at the post number 138 is asked to stand and uncover the face of the flag and recite the following. To those that went, to those that are there still, to those that have not returned, to those that never will. It has been slowly spreading across the country ever since, thanks in large part to our snowbird population here in Arizona. Several legions and VFW posts across the valley have adopted the tradition as well. I was working on one post when I first heard it back in 2019. When I learned it originated right here in the valley, I had to learn more. I was blessed to be able to meet and get acquainted with Sergeant Witkowski's parents and learn the entire story. Been on a mission ever since to bring the toast to every single entity possible. Ever since. I made a couple videos about it in an effort to bring the toast, and here we have one to help it spread. And so, my friends, we pause and toast to our veterans and that beautiful story and the sergeant and everybody who serves our great country. We honor them today, and I wanted to share this beautiful video with you now. Beautiful video. We remember our veterans. We thank them for their service and for doing what they do for all of us. And so, my friends and our veterans, we thank you. All right. And so, without any further ado, we get into the show, my friends. And so, let's get right into it because we've got still some business to attend to on this incredible Friday. Let's jump to it. Donald Trump is now considering what he says are indictments in reverse. If the Democrats are going to be prosecuting him and his family and his lawyers and everybody else in between, maybe when he seizes the mantle of power back, he can turn the tables on them. And this is the pendulum swinging back and forth. And we've been talking about this for quite some time. And now, with the polls looking the way they are, it looks like it actually might be a real possibility. And the Democrats are getting a little bit nervous, quivering in their seats because the swing states are looking pretty good for Trump. And Joe Biden doesn't look like he's going anywhere. So Trump made some comments about this, and we'll go through them. We'll see what he says about the current situation of being prosecuted 4 times in criminal courts and civilly in other courts. And we'll see what his reaction is to a bunch of this stuff. But we've also got Representative Elise Stefanik, who is submitting a judicial complaint about Judge Engoron, which is where the current really climax of the Trump prosecutions are occurring, which is in New York. Of course, this is a civil case, but it is considering disgorging Trump of nearly $250 million. And so there's a lot of attack happening through that vector as well. And so this is the clip that's catching everybody by storm. A lot of people in the media, how dare Trump even consider using the justice system as a cudgel against us? I mean, we've only been doing it since the day he came down the escalators, but now he is going to think about using our own weapons against us? here is CNN. They've got this clip out, and I want to share this one. You'll see it at the very end of this clip. We're not going to listen to this, but to the woman. But I think this is Dana. Okay, you're going to watch her. Like, watch this. Like, she's really this last like she's not happy with what Trump said. Right? She's like a little freaked out. It's kind of a fun little freeze frame at the very end there. So
they've weaponized the Justice Department. They've weaponized the FBI, and they've come at me with the worst indictment.
Yeah. And they're not happy about this. And we've seen Scarborough, we've seen Maddow, we've seen all the ladies on The View. What's going to happen? Schiff, and everybody's shifting their pants over there. And so this is, kind of a hysterical thing, because this is what we've been saying for a long time. It's like, all right, you want to go down this road? All right, it's not going to last forever. This is how these things go. And you can just look historically, when you start prosecuting your political opponents, it's a bad, bad thing, which is why we haven't done it in 234 years until the Democrats got in charge. And Trump is going to beat us. And so they had to really make sure that they took him off the field, lest he interrupt their plans. So that is part of the clip. Now, Trump is in this little position right now where the gag order against him is stayed. And he's been publishing a lot. He actually had another couple comments about Judge Chutkan and the deranged thugs over at Jack Smith's office. But Trump is also commenting about the New York case, which is really the current, I would say, most intense legal attack vector that's happening right now, because we're in the middle of a trial. Trump is starting his defense case in chief in just a few days, and we'll be seeing what he has to present. But he's posting this on his Truth platform. He says, Judge Engoron, the judge who is going to be getting a judicial complaint from Representative Elise Stefanik that we're going to read in just a minute, said that Judge Engoron should end the ridiculous political witch hunt against me. I have totally won this case, which should never have been brought. The only fraud was committed by AG Letitia Tish James in convincing the judge that Mar-a-Lago was worth only $18 million in order to make my numbers look bad. When it's worth 50 to 100 times that amount, she campaigned on getting Trump, he says. She should be prosecuted. You're kidding. So Trump's going to seize power, and hopefully the Republicans have this red wave, and all of them get prosecuted for malicious prosecution and for harassment and election interference and obstruction and all the same things. They just use their levers of power illegally, unconstitutionally, to try to take out their political opponent. So sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good. Now Trump, right? I think he is recognizing, and the people are recognizing, that these are illegitimate in reverse. And so we're going to see a complaint by Representative Elise Stefanik over to Judge Engoron, who's in New York, who is a bona fide Democrat, who's elected, who is allowing another Democrat who's also elected, Letitia James, to do all of this to Donald Trump in the name of justice. This is taking place in New York. And what we're going to find is that Eric Trump says this is not just about Trump, okay? You're wrecking businesses. You're wrecking people's livelihoods. You've got people who are working for the Trump organization, and you're going after them. You're going to be attacking them, and that's going to cause problems to them and their families.
Let's not forget about the 1,000 employees. These are maids. These are housekeepers. These are engineers. These are drivers. These are bellmen. I mean, people who literally rely on our family and our properties to put food on their plate, on their tables every single night. There's thousands of people who are collateral damage to Letitia James's games, and she doesn't give a damn. I mean, she doesn't even consider these people. I mean, isn't she responsible to take care of New Yorkers or represent the best interests of New Yorkers? These people have incredible jobs because of us, because of the Trump organization, because of our family, and she wants to put those people in peril. Sean, these people are cruel. They are cruel, cruel people, and they will do anything for their own political power. And my father will keep fighting it. I'll keep fighting it. And in the end, we will win, because whatever's happening is just, it's unthinkable and it makes no sense.
And the question is, why would other businesses stick around in New York? I mean, unless you're absolutely traditional, liberal orthodoxy, then you're kind of at risk there, right? You're subject to somebody being raided or something by Tishy, or somebody coming after you. Now, we've also got Mayor Adams just got raided too, and they just took his cell phone. So the FBI is going after him as well. You can't trust the FBI. But in New York, what we have is Representative Stefanik now submitting a judicial complaint to Judge Engoron, And I want to go through this, and I want to commend Representative Stefanik for actually doing something about this. You know, we kind of sit here, and I know many suggestions have come in, and they say, well, can we file a complaint? And I said, yeah, but what are they going to do? And they're just going to, laugh you out of there, because most of us are not from New York, first of all, and they are civilian complaints. But if you have a representative who's filing a complaint from Congress, maybe the judicial, the bar, the committee that governs the judges, maybe they kind of do something about it. They give it a little bit of a closer look. And why is this taking so long for other Republicans to rally the troops around and against these weaponized legal attacks? Elise, Representative Stefanik, put this out on the X platform, says, I just filed an official judicial complaint against Judge Arthur Areola Engoron for his inappropriate bias and judicial intemperance in New York's disgraceful lawsuit against President Donald Trump and the Trump Organization. She says Americans are sick and tired of the blatant corruption by radical leftist judges in New York, and all New Yorkers must speak out against the dangerous weaponized lawfare against President Trump. Read my full complaint below. We, of course, will do that. Now, she is from New York, representative from the District 21, and so she's got a little bit more standing, right, because she's there. Say, hey, I'm a citizen of New York. I happen to also be a congressperson, and so maybe you should pay attention. And so this is what she sent over. As you can see, this is sent from her personal address, okay? This looks like it's not on official government letterhead, right? This is not from Congress. Normally you'd see like Congress, House of Representatives, and here in the state and all this stuff. Looks like it's just her as a citizen saying, hey, from my P.O. box here in Glens Falls, New York, November 10th, she writes, to the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct, and that's a nice address if you happen to be in New York and you want to, maybe write them a letter similar to this one, for example. Nice little template we have here as well. Says here, judicial complaint against Judge Arthur Areola Engoron, Supreme Court, New York County, case name, New York versus Trump, brought by Tishy Latish James. Stefanik says, I write today to express my serious concerns about the inappropriate bias and judicial intemperance shown by Judge Engoron in his New York lawsuit against President Trump and the Trump Organization. She says this judge's bizarre behavior has no place in our judicial system, where Judge Engoron is not honoring the defendant Trump and his rights to due process and a fair trial. These serious concerns are exacerbated by the fact that the defendant, Trump, is the leading candidate for president of the United States, and it appears that the judicial system is being politicized to affect the outcome of the campaign. Representative Stefanik says, simply put, Judge Engoron has displayed a clear judicial bias against Trump throughout the case, breaking several rules in the New York Code of Judicial Conduct. Saying last year, Judge Engoron told President Trump and the attorney for Trump that President Trump is, quote, just a bad guy. That's last year, before the trial even started. Judge is on record. They say who Democrat Attorney General Tishy, quote, should go after as the chief law enforcement officer of the state. And this is a footnote down to footnote 1. This is from Mary Poppenfaus. She says in an article from Huffington Post dated February 17, 2022, that he's just a bad guy. Quote, the judge slams the claim that Trump has been unfairly singled out, right? So the judge is supporting Tishy Latish. Now, at the start of the trial, before that statement came well before trial even started, the judge has already come to his conclusion. Now, at the start of the trial, Judge Engoron infamously smiled and posed for the cameras, took his glasses off. Here I am. I'm making history. Maybe I'll put it in my nipple newsletter. Now, after the defendant won an appellate ruling against Judge Engoron on the appropriate statute of limitations in this case, because many of these cases come from 2011 and so on, the judge simply ignored the ruling. And we've got 2 footnotes down here. This one from New York courts. This one says that applying the proper statute of limitations and the appropriate tolling, claims are time barred if they accrued, that is, if the transactions were completed before February 6, 2016. Okay, so that's the deadline. In other words, the Court of Appeals has said that everything before that is not applicable because the claim should have been brought back then. They say here, for defendants bound by the tolling agreement, claims are untimely if they accrued before July 14th. And that comes from the appellate division from the First Judicial Department, decided back in June of this year. So Ms. Stefanik, the representative, writes, the judge has just literally simply ignored the ruling and just saying, well, I'll assess my damages based on all of that, right? So the judge will assess damages for the stuff that is inside the hula hoop. So there's a hula hoop, and inside is fair game. That's all good. Now, outside of the statute of limitations, these are no-nos. But the judge is going to say, well, I'm going to consider and only rule upon damages and restitution and all, the harm only on these cases. Like I'm just going to only impact this category. But I can consider these things, even though they're not really applicable, maybe as charges or claims, but I can consider them for a pattern of misconduct that I can use for this analysis, right? So Trump keeps objecting and he says, no, I know, I'm not going to penalize you for this. I'm just going to consider this as part of a greater pattern for that. And man, if you look that way, it almost looks like his bonus torso photo. Gross. So they continue on. It says this, so they said Engoron ignored the ruling, and now Judge Engoron then entered summary judgment against Trump before the trial even began, without any witnesses, without any other evidence, without any cross-examination. And this is despite the fact that there's disputed material and evidence. And there's no claim of Trump's supposed fraud, no victim of Trump's supposed fraud. Nobody's even been articulated as somebody who's been wronged here. Now, indeed, as the trial evidence is made clear, says Ms. Stefanik, Trump paid back the sophisticated Wall Street banks on time, in full, with interest, as agreed. And no insurance company paid a penny. And these banks and insurance companies that were supposedly defrauded, so-called, by Tisch, they continued to do business with Trump. But Judge Engoron decreed before the trial even started that Trump somehow committed fraud. We don't really know how. And now the judge is holding a trial with no jury to determine how much of Tish James, oh, she's got Tish in there. Yeah, nice job, Elise. Woo. Nailed it. That's her Twitter account. And she's always sitting on her Tish. So it fits. To determine how much of Tish James's requested $250 million in damages with no victims that he's going to extract from Trump. How does this not violate Donald Trump's 7th Amendment right to a jury trial? You can just take away $250 million like that because some judge decided it in summary judgment? And Judge Engoron, writes Ms. Stefanik, has made it crystal clear that he doesn't care what the defendant or his attorneys have to say. Indeed, Judge Engoron also illegally gagged them, saying you can't talk about his Greenfield law clerk who's passing him love notes and maybe massaging his neck. Nobody knows what she's doing. Nobody can say what is happening there, so nobody really knows. And as far as I can tell, there's no evidence that she's not massaging his neck in the middle of the court because his attorneys, all the attorneys are gagged from saying anything about it, so we just don't know. Now, Judge Engoron told the defendant, says, we are not here to listen to what you have to say. What? That's weird. Trump was literally on the stand testifying. He told the defendant's counsel, he says, quote, I'm not here to what he has to say. Now sit down. And everybody looked at each other in this court. You're like, did he just say what I think he said? I'm not here to hear what he has to say. Now sit down. And then Judge Engoron even threatened Trump's lawyers if he filed a routine motion for a directed verdict. Chris Keese, Trump's defense attorney, said, Your Honor, I have to make an objection. Your law clerk, your Greenfield, your GF, is passing you love notes all day, and I got to make an objection to this. I'm a lawyer. I took an ethical obligation to my client. I have to represent him. So I have to make an objection here and file a motion. And when they did that, the judge looked at Chris, and he looked him dead in the eye, and he said, you better not, Chris. Better not file a motion? What are you, like, scolding him like he's your father or something? Or he's your son? Or some, what is this? So obviously you have to file a motion. Hello. So Judge Engoron writes Ms. Stefanik, and his staff are partisan Democrat donors, no doubt about that. As recently as 2018, Judge Engoron donated to Manhattan Democrats, footnote 5. And you see, the Daily Wire busted this. Brent Scher reported New York judge caught smiling during Trump trial is a lifelong Democrat donor. 2023 October. Even though, according to the Judicial Code of Conduct that was accessed November 9th, Section 100.5 says that judges, quote, shall refrain from making a contribution to a political organization. But this is New York. They don't care. He's voting for Democrats, okay? He's donating to Democrats, not Republicans. So, whatever. We also see that Ms. Stefanik says, the Code of Judicial Conduct from New York, it also stipulates that, quote, a judge shall prohibit members of the judge's staff from contributing more than $500 in the aggregate during any calendar year to all political campaigns for office. So the judge's Greenfield should not be doing that. But look at this. Allison Greenfield, that we call the judge's GF because her name's Greenfield, so it's Judge Areola's GF, has served as Judge Engoron's principal law clerk since 2019. However, in both 2022 and 2023, Greenfield donated in excess of $500 to political campaigns. Which is a lot of money. You know, that's like a lot of money. That's somebody who's very politically active. In 2022 alone, Greenfield donated $3,335 in political donations to Democrat candidates and causes, which is amazing, okay? Like, I don't know what law clerks are making there. That's that's a lot of money for a law clerk in New York. Now, I don't know if Greenfield's getting her, her purse stuffed by Engoron or someone else. I don't know where, I don't know what's going on there, with those notes. I mean, stuff with notes because they're passing notes around. But I don't know what's happening because that is a lot of money. Like most people, I don't think, have budgets for $3,300 for just political causes. And this is not even in an election year. This is like it's, maybe the midterms, but it's New York. Like it's all blue. It's all going to always be, or, has been blue for quite a long time. I think it's going to continue to be blue, at least where she resides in Manhattan. So in 2022 alone, that's a lot of money. Now, she's already given more than $1,000 in 2023 to campaigns. That's a lot. It's like, first of all, we have inflation, man. Things are very expensive now. She just got extra thousands of dollars to just donate away. How much money are they making over there as law clerks? Goodness. Now, when President Trump's attorneys notified Judge Engoron about her donos, Judge Engoron responded by issuing an illegal gag order against President Trump's legal team. It says, don't talk about Greenfield. Don't you talk about her. Yes, she's donated $4,300 to Democrat causes in violation of the Judicial Code, as is Judge Engoron's Judicial Code violations clearly present, and nobody cares in New York because they're all going to Democrats. So, and when Trump speaks out about it, you're gagged. Don't you dare do that or I'm going to sanction you. So Judge Engoron, and again, this is Representative Stefanik, and I think this is outstanding, right? It's amazing so far. And it's very curious as to why, other Republican politicians aren't joining the cause on this because it's clearly insane what they're doing. But Judge Engoron, she writes, has gone on to gag and to fine President Trump for merely criticizing the law clerk, the same woman who's passing him notes, which is core political speech protected by the First Amendment. Trump is in the hole 15 grand, I think, by the latest count. 15 grand, right? 5K for the first offense and another 10 for the second. She says, if anyone in America must have the constitutional right to speak out against the judge, his staff, and the witnesses, it's the defendant going through the process that he believes is politicized and weaponized. That's the point of the First Amendment. When something is unjust, you have an absolute right to speak about it and petition your government. It's why it's the first one. To gag a defendant is un-American. It's an illegal prior restraint on the First Amendment rights, which even the progressive ACLU felt compelled to acknowledge after another Democrat judge called Judge Chutkan in Washington, D.C., also illegally gagged President Trump. That's currently on appeal. Indeed, 3 Democrat-appointed judges on the D.C. Circuit have since stayed Judge Chutkan's illegal gag order. And that's the administrative stay that we covered here. And then we have oral arguments coming out on that, I believe, November 20th. I believe. Now, she continues, says Judge Engoron put his judgment in serious doubt when he issued a summary judgment citing as evidence of fraud that Trump declared that Mar-a-Lago was worth between 426 mil and 612 mil. The AP reported that the 2 top Palm Beach area real estate agents said the club's sale of, quote, $1 billion or more would be possible. She references us to footnote 16. Spencer Terry, October 9, 2023 article. Is Mar-a-Lago worth $1 billion? Yeah, somebody said, yeah, he probably could sell it for $1 billion. But in fact, Judge Engoron ridiculously found that Mar-a-Lago was only worth somewhere between $18 and $27.6 million, which, you know, at that valuation, we were considering, you know, maybe starting a fund and see if we can like super chat ourselves up to at least, you know, like a closet in there. Because that's attainable, I think. So anyzillow.com, you know, as a community, anyzillow.com search shows that nearly 20 acres of prime real estate in Palm Beach, touching both the Atlantic Ocean and the Intercoastal Waterway, is worth exponentially more than 18 to 26 and 7 million, obviously. It's like insane, right? And Judge Engoron had in his hand the sworn deposition of Palm Beach real estate against Lawrence Mowens, who said the Trump organization's valuation were reasonable and below my estimate for the market value of the property each year. Mowens was also asked in a sworn deposition about what sort of buyers would purchase Mar-a-Lago. He said, I could dream up anyone from Elon Musk to Bill Gates and everyone in between. Kings, emperors, heads of state. Some people with net worths of billions of dollars. The judge wrote, obviously, this court cannot consider an expert affidavit that is based on unexplained and, quote, unsubstantiated dreams, is what the judge wrote. And she says, Judge Engoron apparently doesn't understand that expert opinions aren't dreams. And this is yet another example of why Engoron demonstrated bad judgment by keeping this case instead of sending it to the expert judges in the commercial division where the case belongs, saying that he should have booted this out. Says that Trump requested to move the fraud suit to the commercial division, and Engoron rejected that attempt, that article from October 2022, saying, Judge Engoron, this is Ms. Stefanik, his bizarre and his biased behavior is making New York's judicial system a laughingstock. Absolutely true. Former SDNY federal prosecutor named Andrew McCarthy, you may have heard of him, who has at times criticized President Trump, recently stated that he views the whole New York justice system as fraudulent. Andy McCarthy. Yeah, crazy right-winger. Right. She says, Section 100.2a states the following. It says, a judge shall respect and comply with the law and shall act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. That's the rule. I didn't write it, says Ms. Stefanik. Judge Engoron has grossly failed to do this. The commission's sanctions against Judge Engoron are necessary to bring back credibility to our great state's legal system. All Americans, including political opponents, must receive due process and equal protection under our United States and New York constitutions. But Judge Engoron's disdain for President Trump and his politics are evident, and the commission must take corrective action to restore a just process and protect our constitutional rights. Judge Engoron must recuse from this case. Ms. Stefanik, representative from New York, continues. She says, this case is so much bigger than President Donald John Trump. If Judge Engoron can railroad a billionaire New York businessman, a former president of the United States, and the leading presidential candidate, just imagine what he could do to all New Yorkers or anyone else. Judge Engoron's lawlessness sends an ominous and illegal warning to New York business owners. If your New York judges don't like your politics, they will destroy your business, the livelihood of your employees, and you personally. This commission cannot let this continue. She writes, "Thank you for your prompt consideration of this judicial complaint against Judge Engoron for his inappropriate bias and judicial intemperance in New York versus Trump, case number cited therein. Sincerely, Elise Stefanik." Now, not Representative Elise Stefanik, not Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, just a New York citizen who is watching what's happening in New York and who is grossly disturbed about it, as she should be, as should all New Yorkers, because what's happening is not justice. I mean, it's actually kind of insane that it's even being allowed to continue, that the judge is just allowing, himself to gag people for commenting on his own misconduct. It's like, what kind of a courtroom is this? So that, my friends, is what's happening in the Trump trial out of New York City. And there will be more from Trump's defense when they are back in session presenting their case in chief. Of course, we will be here continuing to cover it as soon as they start with their first witness and beyond. And so thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining us and joining us on the next one. We'll look forward to seeing you there. All right. Now, we are turning our attention to Florida, hopping on a plane and going down south just a bit. Picking up with Judge Cannon. Judge Cannon denies Trump's request to postpone his trial until after the election, but just for now. There's some other things happening here that might cause her to revisit that at a later date. She splits the motion. You can see the ruling is saying that the deadline's extension request has been granted. So Trump has a little bit more time to peruse and go through these materials and make some determinations. But the trial, the adjournment of moving this from the May trial date until after the November trial date at this time is denied. Now, we're going to go through that filing in full to see how the mechanics work and see how the dates might align, to see if this will ultimately get bumped past the election, because we know that in the January 6th case, Judge Chutkan is going to want to keep that case in March so that it butts right up against Super Tuesday and has maximum political impact. We'll see if Cannon is able to tease this out and schedule this in between all of Trump's other litigation. But before we get into the actual order from the judge, we're going to spend some time hearing from Trump's former lawyer, James Trusty, who games this out for us before the order came in. He was saying, there's some possibilities here, and we'll see what he had to say. And we've already covered the full hearing that led to this order. So if you missed that, there's another video on our channel called Chaos in the Trump Classified Documents that will give you the detail on what happened here, because this is going to detail the forthcoming trial schedule. Now, I also want to share this clip from Andrew Weissmann, because he was very upset with Judge Cannon from Florida after the hearing took place. And I thought that, man, he let it fly during this clip where he is on a podcast called Prosecuting Donald Trump. Andrew Weissmann on Judge Cannon.
I'm done. I don't know whether it's bias. I don't know whether it's because she is inexperienced. I don't know if it's both. I suspect it is both, but I'm done. It is wholly inappropriate to have somebody with that combination handling a case like this, and so inappropriate to have that be the response. This was a classic integrity test to see whether she was capable of uttering the words to the defense that what you did was improper and don't let that happen again. And instead, it was to the government that was notifying her of the shenanigans. I am absolutely done.
Wow. So he's pretty upset with her, huh? Well, it's kind of interesting because he really didn't do, I think, what he was fearing most. I mean, she kind of came out and didn't adjourn the trial, and she really didn't, do what he was so upset about. But we'll go through the actual order and then see what he says in response to the order, which was pretty benign, actually. But before we do, this is Trump's former lawyer who's kind of gaming out a little bit about how this is all unfolding right before our eyes. James Trusty, Trump's former lawyer, is on with CNN. They spar through some of these issues. Here's what it sounds like.
People that push those questions, I think there's a bigger backdrop, a bigger context to what's going on when it comes to some of the lawyers being challenged by DOJ. And let me just also give a broader context about the idea of obstruction. We certainly, as lawyers, would obviously look into questions of whether there's things that happened after the substantive offenses that could relate to obstruction or attempted obstruction. It's not something that any lawyer takes lightly, so I don't want it to sound like I kind of gloss over it. But to me, it's really clear that a political decision was made by a very politicized department that the best thing they have going to try to distinguish President Trump's possession of documents from then Vice President Biden's is to suggest that somehow obstruction is the difference. And that's been a narrative on this network and others, that somehow, well, you know why they're different? Because of all the obstruction. Now, we don't get any leaks out of Delaware, but we get plenty of leaks down here that relate to these different witnesses like the one you're just talking about.
Just to belabor that point for a minute, right? It's a very nuanced thing. They say the only reason Trump is being prosecuted is because he didn't give us the documents back when we asked him for them. But Joe Biden did. And we found a bunch of documents in multiple locations from him. Trump has a claim, by the way, to those documents because he was the actual president. Presidential Records Act, the Opinions Clause, and so on. Declassification, all that stuff, right, applies. Joe Biden never had that. So Joe Biden was automatically in violation of the law. There wasn't even a gray area about obstruction or any of those things. So it's nonsense, right? They're trying to apply them both. Joe Biden is not starting at the same starting line. He's starting way back. He has no basis at all to have those documents. Okay, Donald Trump did. So he had a claim, and they said it was the obstruction that then invalidates that claim, and that's what led to the charge. It's nonsense. And James Trusty is dead right about it. Now, he flies right through that point because he's trying to make a bunch of points here, but it's a very good one.
Different because of all the obstruction. Now, we don't get any leaks out of Delaware, but we get plenty of leaks down here that relate to these different witnesses like the one you're just talking about or Walt Nata, all to suggest that somehow there was obstruction. And I view it very differently.
But it's not suggesting, I mean, Trump fought a subpoena to turn the documents over. You were there as all of that was going on.
Actually, no, but let me just say this. We want executives. We want anyone who's in kind of the C-suite of life and business to be able to freely talk to their lawyers and figure out, hey, can we fight this subpoena? Is there something overbroad, overly burdensome about this subpoena? What happens if we respond? What happens if we ask for more time? I mean, those are things that we encourage as a society. It's exactly right. And executives across this country have those conversations.
So he did try to fight the subpoena. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we are in a position where we should all be encouraging the notion that anyone that runs a business has the opportunity to talk to their lawyers about whether or not there's some sort of privileges that apply, whether they can fight it, whether they shouldn't fight it.
Okay, but a subpoena is a subpoena, Jim. But
right, whether he has a right to the documents. Joe Biden never did. And so Trump, the obstruction is debatable. They said it wasn't. They said, well, they said it's not. We have made the determination that those are our documents and not yours. And that is not their right to do that.
let me ask you this, because the judge seems to be indicating in Florida that she is going to delay this case. Do you think it's going to get delayed past the election?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any inside knowledge from her or her chambers or really anyone else. But I think what's driving the delays right now is not some sort of a political concern. It's the SIPA process. It's this idea that when you have classified material, you have to go through a very serious scrubbing and review and litigation long before you can enter the courtroom for the trial itself. And that seems to be bogging down a little bit, perhaps unclean hands from the government. I don't know for sure. But the bottom line is that takes time normally. And so the time frame, these kind of artificial time frames
But do you believe
for
it's going
Jack
to get
Smith,
pushed?
I think it's probably going to get pushed. I don't know whether it goes beyond the election or not. But generally speaking, SIPA cases, these classified information type cases, don't go to trial quickly because of that review. No matter everything else, no matter how many witnesses, how complex, what other defenses and motions there are, that alone usually pushes them outside of a year.
Let me ask.
Let's ask, if this was not a Trump case, okay, if this was any other case involving any other person with classified documents who had, let's say, theoretically, arguable rights to access those documents, would it happen within a year? Would it happen this quickly? No way. No way. It would take years, right? Look at all of the other cases, and cases like even Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, many of these other cases are percolating for years.
Because obviously the last time our viewers saw you was when you were still on the Trump legal team. You no longer are. Can you just explain why you resigned from the Trump legal team the day after he was indicted in the documents case?
Sure can't. No, I mean, look, and I certainly didn't suggest to CNN that I was willing to talk about that. The bottom line is, I have a
Wow. I certainly didn't say that I was willing to talk to you about that when you brought me on my show. Thanks for the broadside about that, Kaitlyn. Rude.
responsibility. No, I'm not faulting you for asking. It's fine. I'm just telling you, I'm not a kiss and tell guy. So I'm not going to get into anything. It was the right time for myself to leave, for John Rowley to leave. Tim Parlatore left a little bit before that.
Can you just say, did you resign or were you fired?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not here to try to elevate myself or disparage my former client. The bottom line is there was a logical break point. I took that break point, and I don't kiss and tell.
Okay, well, let me ask you about something that happened this week, because the civil fraud case has been happening here in New York. You saw Trump was on the stand. There were some very testy exchanges with the judge, and at one point the judge asked Chris Kise, who was brought on to be on the documents case, but is now in the New York case as well, the current attorney, to get control of him. Do you think you were better at controlling him as a client?
Oh, gosh, Kaitlyn.
No, look, here's what I'd say about that. I mean, the response that was reported, and I haven't been up in the courtroom in New York. I've got other clients to serve. But the response is reported that Chris basically said, ask better questions. That actually is the right response at that situation. It's the attorney general that called him to the witness stand.
Right.
And when you call any witness to the stand that has some expertise in what they're talking about, they tend to be speech makers. I used to deal with cross-examining all sorts of experts in criminal cases as a prosecutor. Everything from fingerprints to identification to God knows what. And the reality is you get in and you get out. If you have to call this witness, and in civil cases you can call the other party, you darn well better get in and out with very tight questions and get what you want and get out. And they apparently didn't do a very good job of that.
Yeah, you're dealing with Donald Trump. Who do you think you're talking to, people? Hello, this is Donald Trump. He's been taking out politicos since 2016. There's one after another. Some of the brightest people in politics, they just come out and get out of here. And Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, whatever, boom, 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 boom. Jeb Bush, guac bowl Jeb, right? It's like, hello, don't you know who you're dealing with? And so the Trump is unhappy with his answers because Trump's answers were quite good. Get control of your client, who's talking about disclaimer clauses and how every single document they put up on the screen left out one of the key points, which is about disclaimers, saying that the bank should not trust anything in Trump's statement of financial records because they need to do their own due diligence, which every bank knows, and they all do. And so he was mopping the floor with them. They didn't like it. That's why Engoron got a little irritated.
To the frustration of the judge, but the judge's ire should have been directed towards them.
Well, I mean, he said that Trump wasn't answering questions with a yes or no answer, but I'm also, I think part of it would be people say Trump is a challenging client to have. I mean, he's had a lot of attorneys who have come to work for him and then left the case. There's a bit of chaos with the New York team right now as well. When you look at this and you look at what he's been saying in the special counsel's investigation, you used to work at the Justice Department. You know Jack Smith, who is the special counsel. When Trump calls him deranged and a psychopath,
yeah,
do you think those are terms that you would use to describe Jack Smith?
Look, what I would do is focus, again, as a lawyer, as somebody who's been a prosecutor altogether 27 years before I went private, I focus on the conduct. I mean, that's me. It's a different situation for a person running for president, being indicted in these unprecedented and creative, and I put quotes around that, types of indictments. But the bottom line is I've seen things from the federal prosecutors in this case, including extorting a fellow lawyer, that are obstructionists, that are wrong, that are over-aggressive. And that's what I call out, and that's what I continue to call out. Hey, look, Kaitlyn, that's a fun game to play. I understand.
It's not a game.
Yeah, it is.
I'm genuinely curious.
You want him to say yes or no. You want him to say yes or no, Kaitlyn. It is a game. We all know it's a stupid game.
What you think, given you've worked with Jack Smith and you used to represent Donald Trump?
I don't think America is waiting with bated breath to hear whether Jim will call Jack deranged. It doesn't matter. It's not part of my interest as an attorney. It's not really part of the public's interest. It's just kind of fun, sensational stuff. The bottom line is any client would have a right to be frustrated with the behavior that he's been facing.
That's right.
On behalf of the department, Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, and the wonderful Georgia case as well.
Big Fanny.
Look, I don't have to sign off or sign on anything that the president says, but I can tell you that the grounds for frustration, the concerns about a two-tiered system are legitimate ones.
Okay, but you're not well, okay, I was going to let you go after that, but I got to ask you, you can't really call it a two-tiered system of justice. I mean, look at the number of Democrats who are being investigated right now. I think Senator Bob Menendez would argue that it's a two-tiered system of justice.
Well,
Hunter Biden, I mean, the list goes on.
You're using Hunter Biden as an example of equal justice?
I'm just saying you can't call it a two-tiered system of justice because there are plenty of Democrats who are also being investigated.
Sure you can. Bob Menendez, we'll see what happened to him, but it's probably because he was, he got a little too close to the sun, that guy.
By the Justice Department,
yeah,
including the...
She brings up Hunter Biden. James Trusty and I had the same reaction. Look at those eyes. He's like, what the heck? Hunter Biden, are you nuts, lady? Look at that right there. What? Hunter Biden? Are you crazy? The dude, they were going to give him a total diversion deal for a whole mountain of criminality that he did on the behalf of the back of the Biden family name. She knows she got busted there too. Oops, bad example. All right. So that's CNN, giving it their best shot. And it's fun to watch them spar a little bit. But all right. Now, we finally got the ruling, right? The question is, what's going to happen with the trial? Is this going to happen in May? A trial in May is going to be a big problem because Trump is going to be in trial in March on the January 6th case. If that's 6 to 8 weeks, which it probably will be, maybe 4, maybe 8, don't know. But it'll be long. So that'll put us March, April, May. Then he'll just have like 2 weeks off, come out of that trial and come skidding into this trial. So May, June, maybe July. And then we've got maybe Georgia, and then that'll carry us up into the election. Like, it's insane that they geared all of these up right after each other so that they climax in 2024. Like, do you see? All right. So the question is this one going to move, or is it going to stay on the calendar for May? This is what Judge Cannon wrote. And she splits it right now, but it's going to come back, and we'll see if these issues re-emerge later down the line. 9-pager, this one coming from the Southern District of Florida, West Palm Beach Division. Of course, we know it's Jack Smith, the deranged thugs over there prosecuting Donald Trump. They're doing it on behalf of Joe Biden and the Democrats. But here's Cannon. She writes, this is an order granting in part Trump's motion to continue the pretrial deadlines, but denying, without prejudice, meaning we might revisit this, the motion to adjourn the trial. Okay, so Trump wanted two things. He wanted postponement of the deadlines and the postponement of the trial. And she says, well, the court has reviewed Trump's motions. We've seen Jack Smith's response. We've reviewed the various discovery order updates. We've seen the classified supplements. And we had a hearing on this on November 1st, the one that we covered here. We got the transcripts, did a full video on that. Transcripts came over from Julie Kelly. She says, following review, it is ordered and adjudged as follows. Cannon says, the motion to continue to postpone the pretrial deadlines are granted in part, but the motion to continue the trial, currently set for the 2-week period commencing on May 20th, is denied without prejudice. So they say it's only going to be a 2-week trial. That seems short to me, but okay. They got like 30-something documents. Yeah. All right. So 2 weeks in May. They say that we're going to be scheduling new conferences. There's going to be a March 1st scheduling conference. And let's look at the details. Cannon writes, she says, all right, before addressing the instant motions, the court reviews the material developments in this case. So some stuff's been happening. She says, on July 21st this year, the court granted in part Jack Smith's motion to continue trial. And we did already reset some deadlines to be in alignment with SIPA, the Classified Information Procedures Act, which makes things complicated because we're dealing with national security, classified documents, and so on. The court's decision followed a full briefing and a hearing during which the parties addressed the estimates of the voluminous classified and unclassified discovery and all the various particulars that are related to SIPA and the extensive pretrial motions that Donald Trump anticipates, right? He's going to be loading motions to dismiss. A lot of the same things we saw never had a president who says he's entitled to his own documents that were created during his administration, over which he had opinion clause power, declassification power, Presidential Records Act power, all of the things. Never been indicted by his political opponent in an election year where the trial will be conducted. They say on July 27th, after the foregoing hearing and entry of the court's order, a grand jury returned another superseding indictment. meaning meaning the government already, okay, we've already scheduled all of this. Like, we settled all of this, right? This is where I think some of the whiners on the other side get this wrong. They say, we granted Jack Smith's motion to continue, and we got new estimates and all of that stuff on July 21st, okay? It's settled. Hey, do you want to have lunch? Yes, let's pick a date. When's the date? It's settled. It was done. Then, about a week later, on July 27th, after the foregoing hearing, the judge says, like, we already settled this, Jack Smith returned a superseding indictment, meaning they came back and they added in, a third defendant to the case. Carlos de Oliveira and another count also got added. So we got 2 defendants and 42 total counts. They say following a reasonable period of time, all the other co-defendants were arraigned, and guess what? Trump also got arraigned in August. They say in the months that followed, Jack Smith moved for separate Garcia hearings. These are going to be hearings to determine whether there's conflicts of interest between the 2 new co-defendants. And just to be clear, like when you add in, you have lunch, you say, hey, we've got a lunch plan, a date for 2, and it's going to, happen at this time, but I need to bring 2 other people to the lunch with me. And we're adding in 35 new, however many new sandwiches or whatever. I say, well, that's complicated. I thought you said that we were done when we scheduled it the first time. Like, I don't like to schedule things with you. We've already scheduled it. Now you're adding in a bunch of new garbage for us? In this case, this is your case. So in the months that followed, then Jack Smith, he brought in the co-defendants. Okay, he charged 2 new people. And then he brought up this Garcia hearing. He said, now these 2 guys have to settle this because there could be a conflict of interest between the 2 of them. So then Jack Smith, right, she's getting ready to, I think, she's kind of blaming Jack Smith here a little bit. He also filed contested motions. He also moved for a protective order. And those motions, styled under SIPA Section 3, they resulted in extensive filings and supplemental briefings and a sealed hearing, all as a prerequisite for the classified discovery in this case. So she's saying a lot is happening. Also during this period, the court addressed the manifest complexity of this proceeding in connection with the speedy trial reports, further reiterating the court's complex case designation and ends of justice finding under the Speedy Trial Act. And so when you designate a case complex, it gives you more time in the case, right? When we think about criminal cases at a felony level, we keep a very close eye on the clock. How much time is left? Because we have a Speedy Trial Act that says these things have to go quickly, lest your speedy trial rights be violated. And so when we ask for continuances and stuff, we exclude the time from the clock. And here, if it's designated complex, we add a bunch of time to the clock. Now, Cannon continues. She says, turning to the substance of discovery. So we're at a situation right now, just to summarize, where Trump gets charged, they schedule everything. Then Jack Smith adds in a bunch of stuff. 2 co-defendants, new charges, SIPA filings. He says, I can't give Trump this discovery unless blah, blah, blah. They go through hearings. It's super busy. Now the judge says, just so we're clear of that, like, this is going to be a problem again, I'm sure of it. And she's laying the foundation for justifying a continuance at a later date, saying, see how much work goes into this? So turning to the substance of discovery, she says, the record as it has developed in this case reflects an unusually high volume of unclassified and classified discovery, even as far as SIPA cases go, along with challenges associated with storing and handling particular information at issue in the superseding indictment. She says, every time we've been in court, these matters have been aired at nearly every hearing. First, during the initial scheduling conference in July, then during a sealed SIPA hearing on September, and most recently during the November 1st hearing, where the discovery figures were presented in a more complete and current form. But all told, Cannon says, by the latest numbers, the court is advised by the government that this case involves approximately 1.3 million pages of unclassified discovery, which is a far cry away from the J6 case, which I think is up to 12 to 13 million, which is just nuts. Approximately 60 terabytes of CCTV footage spanning at least 9 months and 5,500 pages of classified discovery. which Trump is going to have very difficult time accessing, right? His lawyers too. They got to go and like get all their permission and see it in certain SCIF locations and all the things. Cannon says, the volume and timing of these materials has outpaced initial estimates. Jack Smith said it was going to be less than that, but it required supplementation, both in the normal course and also to correct inadvertent omissions by Jack Smith's productions. Oops, didn't mean to leave that out. Now, as far as classified discovery is concerned, Cannon says, the full scope of such information, including discovery directly pertinent to the substantive counts, what Trump has been charged with, in the superseding indictment, was made available to the defense only recently, on October 17th, so not even a month ago. Full scope of the discovery directly pertinent to what Trump has been charged with has just been disclosed, further contributing to the delays in the defense review. In the meantime, LSG, which is Litigation Security Group, which is the entity that certifies people and allows them to come in and, security clearance type of stuff, they remain in the process. They're managing various issues associated with the document review in this case, including the read and return requirements that have presented unique logistical hurdles not commonly present in SEPA. And finally, counsel for NADA did not receive a final clearance to review this until October, precluding him from any discovery review as well. So they haven't even read the evidence yet. Cannon says, in the midst of the foregoing, the process of establishing an accredited facility at the Northern Division remains in progress, and we're going to complete that in early 24. And the investigation in this case commenced in February 2022, but no efforts were taken to initiate the establishment of a facility until this case was indicted. Ooh, I love that. So she's blaming Jack Smith, saying, we're trying to create a facility for the defendant who's been charged in Florida to review the documents in Florida. Jack Smith, if you wanted to create a facility where that would have been easy for him to do that, you could have done so, but you didn't. Now you're waiting to establish it. That's not his problem. Finally, Cannon says the court's order on November 1st, following this, we anticipate that there will be more SEPA litigation and more robust than initially forecasted by special counsel Jack Smith. He said it's not going to be a lot of stuff to fight over, but now it is. Jack Smith, now, look at this. He seeks to withhold from Trump an unidentified amount of information marked as classified. Jack Smith and the deranged thugs there, they don't want Trump to see any of that unidentified amount of information. How much? Anyone know? They also seek to withhold from NADA all but one page of the 5,500 pages marked classified. And they seek to withhold everything from De Oliveira. Cannon says these matters will be the subject of SEPA litigation to begin in accordance with the order, and there's going to be a lot of stuff to go through. A significant volume of information, more briefings, more hearings following the contested defense motions to compel. So she's flushing this out, right? Trump, they're all going to say, no, you don't get to withhold unidentified amounts of unidentified information from us. No, litigate it. Now, all of this leads to the instant motion. She says Trump now seeks to revise the pretrial deadlines, saying we got a lot of things we need, delays and omission in the production of discovery. Jack Smith hasn't given it to us. They've also been sizable increases in the quantity of all of the discovery. We haven't been able to access the discovery until October. We also are going to be filing motions to compel. We think that there are going to be substantial areas of dispute under SIPA. We can't even review the subcategories of the classified discovery. There's no secure facility in the Northern Division. We've got scheduling conflicts by Trump's other cases, right? Look at all these reasons. Judge, please grant us an adjournment of this trial. Now, they request an adjournment for the same reasons. But Jack Smith says, well, yeah, we might need to continue some of the pretrial deadlines that we had previously. But that's because we acknowledge that there were some delays in production, and they do need to review some of the classified discovery, and we do recognize the high volume of discovery in this case. But counsel, Jack Smith, opposes any material adjustment to the current deadlines because he says nothing material has changed since the court set the trial date, which is a little disingenuous. I mean, they added a superseding indictment, of course. The special counsel also disputes that Trump and his contention that SEPA litigation should come after motions to compel, and the judge says, I actually agree with that. So she says, now, the court has reviewed the instant motions, and upon consideration, here's what we think is appropriate and most prudent. Cannon writes, given the evolving complexities in this matter, it is to adjust the first batch of pretrial deadlines as specified in the chart below, and to deny as premature, meaning we can revisit this, the motion to adjourn the trial date. So is the trial date going to go, beyond November 5th? We'll see. The court says as follows. First, and most significantly, the quantity of discovery in this case remains exceedingly voluminous, even more so than initially thought. To be sure, Jack Smith has taken various steps to produce discovery on a regular basis, but even with these efforts, discovery has increased sizably from the initial estimates. Classified discovery did not become available to the defense in its complete form and on the substantive counts until October 17th. Clearance and read-in procedures have only recently reached near closure for assembled counsel of record, and discovery review as a whole has generated concrete challenges given the sheer amount of materials and the sensitivities of the information involved. And I just want to pause here because think about this. The judge is identifying all of these heavy lifts, a lot that needs to be done. This is only 1.3 million pages in this case. In Chutkan's courtroom, we're talking over 10 million pages. And she is holding her trial before this one. This one was scheduled for May. Chutkan is scheduled for March. There's literally like 10 times the amount of evidence in the January 6th case. And she's saying Trump's team can get that done before March, right? Just to show you how insane and unreasonable her court proceeding is. So these evolving and unforeseen circumstances require a reevaluation of the initial period of the defense discovery review that was originally contemplated by our first order. Now, and they make plain to the court what due process requires. They say, Trump needs more time to review the discovery in this case, and this order aims to afford that opportunity in a reasonable fashion, balanced against the public's right to a speedy trial. Now, second, although initially projected as minimal, SEPA litigation in this case is properly understood under the text of the statute will require more time for party briefing and the court to review given the volume of information sought to be deleted from defendants, meaning Trump cannot see it. Now, this process is going to be the same process that we covered already in DC. The government files an ex parte motion, which means they don't talk to Trump's side about it. They just submit it directly to the judge, bypassing the defense, saying that it's not simple. It must be done carefully, and there's a bunch of sensitive things that need to be presented here. And third, Trump, they represent that they intend to seek to compel discovery on those issues. So when they file this ex parte stuff and they say Trump can't get it, he's going to fight it, saying that they're not only going to try to get it from Jack Smith and the FBI, but also from other government agencies. Cannon says, I'm not expressing any view on the merits of those anticipated motions, but it is evident that the parties are at odds on significant issues here about the scope of the discoverable information, and these disagreements, which we'll put a pin in, will require substantial judicial intervention. Now, this too adds complexity to the case, both as a matter of briefing, court review, future rounds of SEPA litigation. And fourth, although less important at this stage, the court cannot ignore the realities of pretrial schedules and trial schedules in two other matters identified by Trump. They've got a lot of things going on. They have United States versus Trump at a Chutkan's courtroom scheduled for March 4th. Estimated to last anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks and maybe even more. We've also got New York case, Alvin Bragg's case, currently scheduled for March 25th. Trump is recently filing motions and trying to get the New York matter moved, currently scheduled for February 2024 with the scheduling conference. Now, although special counsel is correct that the trajectory of these matters could remain in flux, as they currently stand, they are substantially overlapping deadlines. They might move, but your deadlines overlap with their deadlines. So we got to figure it out. And so for these reasons, Cannon says, consistent with the rationale set forth earlier, and in consideration of the material developments that have come up to date, we are going to be adjusting the schedule as follows. In reaching these conclusions, the court has conducted a careful review of all the SEPA issues and has surveyed the landscape as a whole. But having done so and finding no comparable SIPA case presenting a combination of the factors discussed therein, the court is confident that these reflect the needs of this case and the pace of complex SIPA litigation here. Now, here's the update. All of the remaining deadlines are superseded except the calendar call and the trial. Now, calendar call is the final court date before the trial. Are we still on? Is the calendar? Yep, we're on. See you tomorrow. Or see you on Monday. Additional deadlines and hearings are now noticed as required. So, working backwards, right? We've got a scheduling conference and we've got the May trial date. And so you're going to see, right, we're going to have pretrial motions. We're going to have hearings on the Section 4 motions. Now, this date is the one that really stands out because there's going to be a hearing on this date, right? February, then we'll get an order. There's going to be contested issues there. We're going to have probably even maybe appeals on that, interlocutory appeals, we'll see. It's getting very close. So my point is that when there's a problem here and we have our May trial date down here, like we're getting very close, right? February, March, April, May. If this causes another round of litigation, so for example, this, like another round of these, because there are more disclosures. So Jack Smith now discloses something, but doesn't disclose the full thing. Trump says, I need to compel more. And they say, no, you don't get more, right? And we have a whole sort of circular series, set of litigation that we have to go through again. And that, in theory, could be something that postpones the May date all the way down till, even like at the end of November, like literally, right? You just bump it out 6 months, like 6 months literally from May. That puts you at the end of November. And so it is an interesting ruling. We're not moving the trial date right now, but we are moving some of the deadlines, and those are coming and butting up closer to the May date. So when we get there, when we get to February and things are not settled, we still have issues with discovery, we still have issues with SIPA, we still have issues with classified documents. Trump says, I need access. They say no. Judge Cannon might revisit the trial date and bump it out. And so we'll see. Weissmann still is not happy with Cannon, even though she didn't move the trial date. She says, this doesn't change my opinion. By allowing Trump to move to delay the trial, but keeping the date from now, she's blocking Fani Willis from scheduling her trial on the current Florida date. And Cannon has substantially delayed the dates for all the Florida filings, right? So he's not happy about it, which means probably a good thing for Trump. So this trial and the deadlines are going to continue on. We will be covering them all, my friends, and I hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing to our channel, wherever it is you're watching. Thank you for visiting robertgovea.com to sign up for our daily newsletter and get access to the mind map. All the PDFs are there, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you on the next one. All right. And now, my friends, we got one final segment on the day. This one is a curious one. Politicians getting a little bit nervous after a brothel in D.C. and surrounding area gets taken down by the Department of Justice. And you can see the announcement came out from this guy. We're going to listen to what he had to say from the DOJ, District of Massachusetts, United States Attorney's Office. But the timing on this thing's very curious because simultaneously with the announcement of this brothel network that apparently was servicing like politicians in D.C. and Boston area, all around this area, apparently, it was announced at the same time that they were voting on a defund the FBI headquarters. So Matt Gaetz introduced an amendment to pull $300 million of fundraising out of FBI headquarters, and 70 Republicans voted against Matt Gaetz' amendment. FBI is probably going to be getting their money. We'll see what it looks like, but it's curious. Politicians are using some of these networks, and the FBI knows about it and they indict some people. They might have some pretty big goods on some of our so-called elected class. Now, this is what the announcement sounds like. We're going to read through the full affidavit and the complaint that was issued by the special agent and go through it. It's a juicy one. But this is what it sounded like when they made their announcement from the DOJ.
Earlier today, 3 individuals were arrested and charged in federal court with operating a sophisticated, high-end brothels in Cambridge, in Watertown, and in Eastern Virginia. These establishments were allegedly promoted through two different websites, BostonTop10.com and BrownEyesGirlsVA.blog. The three individuals behind these websites
Don't be going there.
facilitated the movement of predominantly Asian women across the United States for sex trafficking and a commercial sex ring, exploiting them in the process. This commercial sex ring was built on secrecy and exclusivity, catering to a wealthy and well-connected clientele, and business was booming until today. It's alleged that the prospective sex buyers in this scheme first had to respond to a survey and provide information online, including their driver's license photos, their employer information, credit card information, and they often paid a monthly fee to be part of this illicit club.
A subscription club?
The affidavit that's unsealed in court today alleges that once the buyers were verified, they were then texted and allowed to place orders with commercial sex workers. They would choose the duration of this encounter they wanted, the types of services they wanted, and they also would receive a menu of different options and different women that they could purchase, sometimes at rates between $350 and $600 an hour. The menu included photographs of the various women who were available that day.
Wild. So that's what's happening in Washington, D.C. They've now busted them. We're going to read through the full complaint, see if any politicos are in there. But here's what the announcement says over from the DOJ's website. It says 3 individuals been arrested in connection with this scheme, allegedly including elected officials. You see that? Elected officials caught up. Interested buyers were allegedly required to provide employer information. Hunter Biden's like what? White House? Hunter, like White House. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Dad, employer. Joe Biden. Occupation, president. My president's son, first son. Criminal convictions. No, DOJ's got my back. Okay. So, wow. All right. So he fills it out. 3 individuals arrested. High-tech pharmaceutical executives, doctors, military officers, government contractors that possess security clearances, professors, lawyers, scientists, accountants, among others. What the heck is going on? The following defendants have been charged with conspiracy to coerce and entice to travel to engage in this activity. Han Lee, a.k.a. Hana. James Lee, 68, Torrance, California. Zheng Mayang Lee, Dedham, Massachusetts. They were arrested in the morning, charged on various counts. It's alleged that they collectively established the infrastructure for the brothels in multiple states that they used to entice women, primarily Asian women, to travel to Massachusetts and Virginia to engage in prostitution. Now, let's take a look at the actual criminal complaint and see what is inside. This came out from the Department of Justice, and here it is. This is the application for a complaint written by Special Agent Zachary. It's a 60-pager. He says, I, Zachary, hereby do state the following. I'm a special agent with the United States Homeland Security Division, HSI. And we've been seeing a lot of HSI. In fact, they were all over the place on January 6th, failing when they were supposed to be securing the Capitol. Some might say causing the insurrection, but they were all over the place. FBI said, oh, we didn't have that many informants on January 6th. Why? Because they were all HSI, or a lot of the undercover people were, tons of them. Anyways, so he works for that entity now, which is basically gobbled up some jurisdiction of the FBI. You know, it's 2 entities. Why not 2? He's been employed there since 2020, currently assigned out of Boston. Graduate federal law enforcement training, was a uniformed officer with the Secret Service. Before this happened. Now, as a special agent, I investigate human trafficking, drug smuggling, and share information with intelligence agencies. Based on my training and experience, I know how these things work. He says, I'm currently involved in an investigation of a group of individuals that use the Travel Act, or violate the Travel Act, by enticing people to come and engage in these activities. The affidavit is being submitted as part of a complaint for these 3 people, Han Lee, James Lee, Zheng Meng Lee, saying that beginning at least in or about July 2020 and continuing until present, each of these did knowingly persuade people to come and engage in this stuff. Doesn't set forth everything, but this is a summary. This is the multi-year investigation that has uncovered, as described in more detail below, that co-conspirators were advertising women and at least 2 different websites on the internet. One of the websites focused its advertising on the Boston area, and the other focused in Virginia. They ran the day-to-day operations of the various locations. Now, he says, I believe these operations are limited, or include but not limited to, checking in on the brothels, women staying in and working in them, transporting the women to the airports, assisting the women with luggage, providing groceries, collecting the proceeds, depositing the proceeds, exchanging them for money orders. He says, I believe James opened the lease and the others were participating. Gotten a lot of information about this. He says, here are the locations. All of them are located here. See a bunch of addresses on the screen. Now, here's a summary of the evidence. From at least 2020, the co-conspirators identified in paragraph 4 previously operated an interstate network. They advertised their services on these websites, and I'm sure they have been seized, but no need to check. This site does not promote, they say here on this blog site, this site does not promote these activities, nor is this advertisement an offer of this. But both sites do in fact promote that. Several women have been advertised on more than one of the described websites, and they travel around the city. Each website describes a client, and they say the form is easy, very simple. It's like, DoorDash. You just fill out your information, fill out a verification form as a first-time customer, and then contact one of the 2 phone numbers. Then you can book appointments. Time, location, duration, text message, they just come on over. More specifically, once the information is verified, they then receive a text message, and they have a whole system here. They say a TARE ID refers to an identification assigned to a worker and the VIP section of this website. Likewise, I'm aware that there are other websites, and you can have a preferred membership. Ooh. So the membership application requires new customers to input personally identifying information. And people just do it, I guess. Full name, birth date, credit card information, employer information, and websites. Preferred 411 membership, it costs $119 a month for the first 6 months. Membership renewal rates were offered at various price points, $59 a month. It's a subscription service for prostitutes. Incredible. America. But this is illegal, obviously, and these are, probably, maybe a foreign operation. Who knows? But approximately 20 buyers were interviewed in connection with this multi-year-long investigation. So the people who purchase, those men described and they said politicians were in this list. 20. Who's on the list? Those 2 men described arranging at various locations, including some of the target locations, for the purpose of engaging in activity. Now, they say many of the buyers who were interviewed by law enforcement stated that for a typical encounter with one of them, they went to a specified apartment as directed by text messages from phone numbers from the website they visited. Wild. So these guys just show up to some random thing, probably with cameras everywhere. One such customer described being directed to a specific apartment, then got a menu of options at the location, list the women available, the services available, and the rates. Here's what it looks like. Here, like 8:45. How about Mimi? Yeah, Mimi looks nice. 9 p.m. available. Donations are for Peach, Kara, or Tina, or Mimi, or Alina. Donations are for Kara, Tina, Mimi, or Alina. Now, there's no discount for BB. If you get caught making direct appeals with girls, we won't accept any more appointments. Also, if you go into the GFE and upgrade to BB, please pay first. I don't even know what that means, but I don't want to know. Do not share with other girls. They do not like it. GFE services, 30 minutes for $240, 60 minutes, $340. Oh gosh, up to 2 shots, whatever that means. I think we might know. 90 minutes, $540, 120 minutes, $640. BB service, BB without equals without CD. Okay, we're just going to fast forward through some of this. Now, as depicted above, a woman nicknamed Kara, Tina, Mimi were offered these different customers. All right, BB is a term in the prostitution industry that refers to without protection. as evidenced by the Boston brothel phone clarifying in its subsequent test, BB without CD. I think that's where we picked up on it. BB equals without CD, right? We all know what that means. I'm also aware that the GFE refers to girlfriend experience, which provides a more intimate experience and blurs the boundaries between a financial transaction and a romantic relationship. Generally speaking, when the customers arrived at the apartment unit, they did not knock. The door was opened by an Asian female inside, as expecting them. Typically, the Asian female who opened the door was the individual they made the appointment to meet. The customers provided a cash payment in an amount confirmed by the text message, usually based on the duration of the service. Customers removed their shoes, were escorted by the Asian female to the bedroom, where the customers undressed and were accompanied into an attached bathroom. They were then offered to use mouthwash. Yeah, for sure. They were offered a shower with them or without the Asian female, and then they returned to the bedroom, engaged in acts using the protection that she provided. Those customers were then directed to various locations for other money. I'm aware that they offered money for a fee, and they operated 10:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day of the week. 10:30 a.m., man. It's not even lunchtime. All right. So based on my training and experience, I believe that the Boston and Virginia brothels are high-end because of the high costs associated with the units. Also, they were $350 up to $600. And throughout the course of our investigation, we've identified several customers through surveillance, phone records, customer interviews, and other investigative methods. These customers spanned a wide array of different professional disciplines. Uh-oh. Some of these professionals included, but are not limited to, politicians, my friends. Who are they? Oh, pharmaceutical executives, doctors, military officers, government contractors that possess security clearances, professors, buyers, lawyers, business executives, technology company executives, scientists, accountants, retail employees, and students. And they said there were like 20 people, so that's like 20 things, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different categories. The list only encompasses a small sample of known customers that have been identified through our investigative methods. It says most men then showered again with or without the Asian female before leaving the apartment unit. Show up, shower, do the dirty, exit with a shower. I believe there are potentially hundreds of yet to be identified customers that may include other professional disciplines not included in the list. Now, as detailed, customers or the buyers described within this affidavit are not named. I do not do this for purposes of maintaining their anonymity, but instead doing so because our investigation into their involvement is active and ongoing. Now, are we going to know who these politicians are? Now, they tell us about how these things were advertised, and so we'll fast forward through some of that. Website describes the process a user must take, depicts a survey. Here are the different locations you can see. 90 Fawcett Road, Unit 435, Unit 530, Unit 221. Here are some of the, I didn't scan this to make sure that this was YouTube friendly, and I think it should be. And it looks like it mostly is. Let's see what we got here. So here is a photo. It says, I redacted portions of the photos of the women depicted on the websites in order to protect their identities. You can see here's what the website looks like. Modeling shoots available, right? They're modeling shoots. We have some change, ask for text. Verification form for first-time photographers. Right. Just doing some photography. Got it. The website here proposes to advertise for nude models. Landing page contains disclaimers. You can see the disclaimer here. This site contains adult-related material. And some more blogging stuff there. Like this website, this describes the process. A verification form is needed, and it gives you the various rates. There's also various blog addresses. They say, although the names here appear to be aliases, the pictures do not necessarily depict the actual women workers as workers in this industry. Yes, okay, so some interesting language being used that we'll fast forward through. And they tell us a little bit more about James Lee and these people involved. So overview of the individuals. Han Lee was born in Korea, first time in the United States. It's a female. She acquired a visitor's visa, overstayed her visa, applied for permanent residency. She told immigration authorities that she married a United States citizen, this guy. However, she manages brothel locations. She was seen at all locations, dropping off females, dropping off supplies, managing everybody. She exchanges money orders for $1,000. She doesn't want to, she tries to avoid reporting requirements. And she's in charge. James also is involved. He has flown commercial airlines from California to Massachusetts. He gets paid $1,000 a month per apartment lease. And Young Mung Lee also is from Korea, began his student visa, and attends Computer Systems Institute in Boston, also responsible for maintaining locations. He says they lease together multiple locations in Boston and various other areas. And so most of this looks like it's just property rentals, right? Leased target location 5, spent money on that one. Phone numbers on the rental applications. He located this one at unit 221, right? So this guy's just going around. He says, wow. Okay, so bank statements, other emails. They use different identities to secure the different leases. A lot of property stuff, actually. A lot of this is property stuff. Here are some photographs from driver's licenses. It says, I believe this person is James Lee. So multiple different IDs. He used the proceeds to purchase hundreds of thousands of dollars of USPS and other money orders, right? So taking cash and then transacting it into money orders. Now, I want to see if there's more about these politicos. So 19 money orders, $12,000. Now they're talking about the cash. He concealed the proceeds through various banks. And let's see what other sections we've got. They say they paid for other people to travel and open up different locations. His travel was paid for. He went from LA to sign rental documents in person. We looked at his Delta airline flight records, thousands of dollars being spent to travel around and set up these shops, $1,000 per month, $15,000 in money orders, phone numbers. They're articulating, again, more locations, like literally just setting up locations everywhere. Wild. It's all over the place. It's a huge operation, like dozens and dozens of locations. I reviewed the website, observed a picture of a female nicknamed Tiffany. I compared those pictures that I observed to this woman and others, identified them as well. Now, Han Lee frequently visits the Virginia brothels. On January 19th, agents conducted surveillance at this location. At 2 p.m., investigators heard a door close at the vicinity of Unit 245. Investigator walked up to the unit, saw an Asian female had 2 dogs beside her, locking the door of the unit. Investigators recognized the female as Han, the person who's been charged, knowing that she resided in Cambridge, Massachusetts. She's like, oh, I'm in hot water, slams the door. Bank records also show Han and transactions traveling around Boston to DC, multiple different locations, saying that they have access to phones and different phone numbers. And based on the above, I believe that Young Mung was the holder of the Boston brothel cell phone on that day, moving around $7,000, $10,000. Now, agents conducted interviews of these sex customers on January 27, 2023. Now, these interviews were conducted at about 6:07 p.m. The customers indicated they communicated with this phone number to arrange for appointments, and then they would text to set up a fee, an interaction with a fee. He previously had been to these locations, and this guy paid $640 in cash. Encounter was a shower, 2 hours of the thing, and another shower at the conclusion of the service. Now, they would say that they would get protection and other things and deal with that. Now, they would also say that the phones would be used for communicating and coordinating. On November 2nd, At 11:15, the precise location of Han's personal phone was identified. And we identified someone sitting with Han in possession of 2 phones. Now, they say that agents got information about some of the subscribers. Based on the information received from Newfold Digital, agents received customer information from the registration page of the website. Uh-oh. All those senator email address and Hunter Biden's like, uh-oh, they got my records? The customer information revealed that the registrant, admin, and technical details all came back to Han. And the customer information is there as well. So they noticed the vehicle pull up. Let's see. Han was hiring or was paying for the travel, and people are flying all over the place. And we see just a lot, man. There's a lot going on here. So they wrap this up. They say the co-conspirators registered websites so that the women had free advertisement, communicated on the phones with customers, rented the locations where women would perform, permitted the women to stay overnight so they didn't have to find lodging, paid for airline travel. In the simplest terms, these workers only had to show up, work, and get paid. All the other aspects of recruiting, the appointments, everything was done by these co-conspirators. Now, I believe that they're responsible for this. In conclusion, based on the following, I think there is probable cause to believe that they conspired to coerce one or more individuals to engage in this type of trade, and that this is a crime that is worth prosecuting. Signed by Zachary Mitlitsky, working with Homeland Security and busting a big, serious ring of bad activity, including politicians in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding area. And so, very interesting timing. And Matt Gaetz brought up an interesting point on this. He said, you know, we are just voting to defund the FBI, and now we know that the brothel that was servicing politicians is now busted. And so we're asking ourselves, is this putting any pressure on Congress in any way? Here's Gaetz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The FBI wants a massive new complex for their Washington, D.C. area-based activities. They want to spend more than $300 million on that complex. Though the FBI has an employee base that's about 2.3% of the United States military, Mr. Speaker, they're literally asking for something that is larger than the Pentagon for the FBI. And so my amendment would disallow any planning, spending, distribution of funds for that purpose. I don't believe that the FBI deserves a massive new headquarters or Washington field office. The activities inside of Washington, the greater Washington metro area, have really driven a lot of the investigative work we have done. It's not bad folks from the FBI out at some field office in middle America or elsewhere in the country. It is the Washington, D.C. based activities that have pressured other field offices for no good law enforcement reason. It's the D.C. based entities that have suppressed credible investigative leads into criminal conduct over the objections of other bureaus and offices, and they've initiated investigations into American citizens merely for engaging in constitutionally protected speech. They've attempted to entrap members of the United States Senate by holding false classified briefings. That's testimony we got from Senators Grassley and Senator Johnson.
Giving our senators false information so that they could be entrapped and in trouble under the law. So if you think the FBI would do those things, do you think the FBI might also use some leverage about some politicians, maybe to their advantage in a situation like this? I certainly think so. And so Matt Gaetz is trying to defund the FBI. We know that Congress is mostly fighting amongst themselves right now. The FBI probably running most of the country. Brothels existing until they're not allowed to exist anymore. We've got dirt on who knows who. We don't know how old those women are, where they came from, or what this operation involved, what kind of compromise they've got on all of these military contractors, scientists, people with secret government possession. All that stuff is now in the hands of the FBI, DOJ, Homeland Security, and the intelligence agencies. So it's going to be curious to see if any of these politicians are exposed. Probably won't be. We're still waiting for the Epstein flight logs. Maybe Marsha Blackburn will get those for us. But my friends, we will continue to cover this and more. Thank you for joining us as we do. I would appreciate a subscribe from you and a share with a friend or family member, inviting them over to join us for our daily live streams. connecting with us at robertgovea.com, where they can sign up for our daily newsletter, get all of these segments delivered to your inbox, sign up for the mind map, access the PDFs, all of it, robertgovea.com. We'll be looking forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends, we covered some good ground today, and that is it for us. We are now going to hear from you. We got politicians nervous, the brothel exposed, Cannon denying Trump's docs trial adjournment postponement request for now, and Trump saying, indictments in reverse sound pretty delicious, while Judge Engoron gets the complaint from Representative Elise Stefanik, which was beautiful. I loved to watch that one unfold. But now, let's hear from you and see what you have to say about this. Of course, we are going over for our members-only after party here to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We have Saturday streams, so if you want to become a member today, you'll catch us tomorrow morning for our Saturday show. We'd also like to see you for our members-only morning streams. We already had a beautiful stream this morning, and so if you're looking for some extra content that is not what we cover here, that's the way to get it. watchingthewatchers.locals.com. But now, my friends, let's hear from you. Let's see what you have to say about all this. We had this one come in from Tasadaka yesterday on Locals. Missed this one coming in at the very end. Tasadaka in the house. Good to see you, Tasadaka. Thank you for the tip and for saying hello and for being a membo over on the Locals. Let's see what else we have in the house on this beautiful Friday. Beth is a supporter. What's up, Beth? Beth is a new membo. Welcome, Beth. We're grateful to see you. We'll see you tomorrow on our members-only morning stream. And for our YouTube members, grab the private Telegram link if you'd like to join us for the members-only after party. It's in the community tab section on YouTube. We've also got this one from MAGA Hat. Says, breaking, defense attorneys for Fulton County have withdrawn from the 2020 election mail-in ballot inspection case that's back in court. Petitioners allege that thousands of ballots counted by Fulton County were counterfeit. An expert called Kevin Kelton, speculates that the county is preparing to say they've destroyed the ballots. If so, Fulton County is in a lot of legal trouble. Destroying evidence in the midst of a case is an admission of guilt. Good to see you, MAGA Hat. Says, hey, what's up, Catherine Rex? Rob! Hi. LOL, long week. Tell me about it, Catherine. We got a lot of stuff going on, but it's been a lot of fun unpacking it all with you, and I'm glad you're here. Hopefully, you got a light weekend ahead so you can relax and unwind. MAGA Hat says, 24 on Twitter. I shared your broadcast. People on Spaces are talking about your analysis, saying it makes them feel better about things. Oh, that's good. Well, that's awesome, MAGA Hat. First of all, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate the shares. Like, you have no idea how much I appreciate the shares. It's super important to just spreading the information, not even the show, just the information. I just want people to see what's happening. That's all. And I'm grateful that they're joining us. I think, we're going through a little bit of a troubled time right now, but there is, I think, optimism at the end of the line, because what these people are doing is just anti-enlightenment. It's just wild. It's like going backwards in time, and it's going to fail because it always does. That's their ideas fail. All right, MAGA Hat, good to see you. We got Rocky Waters in the house, and Catherine Rex is here. Says, happy Friday, mods. Shout out to our mods. We love our mods, modding down the fort for us, including Vientikiss and John Allen, who are clipping away for us. We got this one from Rocky Water. Says, Rob, I'm not working today, so technically I'm not getting paid to watch your show today, but due to the holiday and such, this one's on me. Thanks for what you do, brother. Thank you, Rocky Water. Extremely generous of you. And I'm glad you're not working today. I'm glad, but thank you for dipping into your pocket today. Rocky will oftentimes give me a cut of his day's revenue. He's like, a percent, here's your percent, whatever. So thank you, Rocky. Dip it into your own pocket. But we got to take a break, so I'm glad you are relaxing. Hopefully you're enjoying the show, my friend, and thanks for being a membo. We got this one from B-Man. Says, I can't believe that all these judges don't know exactly what is going also. Also, Vivek was right about Rana. She's useless. The Dems already got their plan to steal the election. Well, I think they're doing it right now. It's like they're doing it right in front of us. They're prosecuting Trump. They are trying to remove him from the ballot. They're going after all of his, deputies. They're weaponizing the whole country literally against him again. So good to see you, B-Man. Thank you for the very nice comment. And I did see Rana was also pushing back against Vivek. And we'll see if that sticks or not. But we're all kind of tired of losing. I saw also Rana was saying that They didn't ask for any help in Virginia. There's an election in Virginia? What? Yeah. All right. Dolphin fan is the man. What's up, Dolphin? Dolphin's bringing in 5 new membos. We got this one coming out saying, who's coming in? Lenny M., Janine S., Kevin G., and James A., along with Grant R., all coming in, courtesy of Dolphin fan is the man on YouTube, bringing in new membos. Dolphin, thank you for that, my friend. Hopefully you're having a beautiful, beautiful day. Spud says, Rob, can you put that letter up on your site? I plan on using it as a template for others to use. Thanks. Oh, yeah, the Elise Stefanik letter. Yeah, that'll be up at robertgovea.com as soon as the segment goes live. Certainly will. What's up, Spuds? It'll be there. NY says, Representative Malia Takakis is going to be signing on to this letter as well. That's awesome. So, Malia Takis, I think I got it, is going to be signing on to this letter as well. I think they all should. I mean, every single Republican should. What a ridiculous thing that's happening there. Good to see you, Doc. Bodie says, maybe you can do something like Indiana Jones plain segments when you are going to the next segments. Like Indiana Jones plain segments when you are going to the next segments. Man, I'm a little ashamed of myself that I don't know what we're talking about here because I do know Indiana Jones. And the one with Sean Connery, I think, is the one I'm most familiar with. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Yeah, my brother Joey's going to be very unhappy with me that I don't know this. I'll have to ask him about it, Bodie. Thanks for the suggestion. And I'll have to figure it out. It sounds like a great idea. Fred is here, says, I can't express how happy I am with Representative Stefanik. It's really good. It's a really good letter. It's like, what took so long from somebody over in Congress to get that out of there? What's up, Fred? Good to see you. We got well-regulated militia of one still under oath. Sending in a nice dono. No question, but thank you for that. Well-regulated militia. Knox Bierman's here. What's up, Knox? Says, wanted to send a Friday tip. Thanks for keeping me up to date, Robert. Thank you, Knox. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you're having a beautiful day out there in Texas and you have a great weekend scheduled ahead. We got this from Yohei Plumbing. Says, want to see Judge Engoron in his prime. Rob, just look up the alien from the movie Mac and Me. Was that like his high school photo or something, Yohei? Let me ask you this. Did he have nipples out in that movie? I don't know. William Jones is here. What's up, William? Says Biden uses loan repayment to not pay taxes on bribes. Right, it's just loan. Yeah, it's the billionaire status, right? You take a loan against your stock and then you just draw down on the loan and then you just repay the loan. It's not income. So something like that from William Jones is what they were doing. NY says, I'd love to see the memo that changed the DOJ policy to not press charges during elections. Whoever changed the policy will burn in DC hearing hell for years. Yeah, so yeah, like they're literally running criminal cases, trials against Trump in an election year. Oh, so there goes your policy. And that was their justification for not doing anything against Hunty during the 2020 election. We got Knox Bierman over in Texas, who is an attorney there, says, in Harris County, Texas, we are docketing trials in March 2024, the earliest for in-clients in custody over 180 days. Do these courts not have regular dockets? They must be giving Trump cases preferential settings. I think so, too. There is no way a civil case would get docketed this quickly either. I agree. I agree. It's like I've had DUI cases go over a year. 2 years, some of them, depending on the cases. So it just depends. And it's wild how fast they're going, but they're on a mission, no doubt about it. So Knox says, yeah, even in Texas, it's March 2024 for them. And that's like, are those felonies or misdemeanors even? Good question. NY's here says the documents are like the Ark of the Covenant. In Nada's case, you get charged for moving or touching the documents, but must not look upon it. Yeah, if you look at it, your face melts off, right? Because Jack Smith and his deranged thugs indict you. Doc says, so in the past, Republicans just move on, like in the IRS scandal. But this time, Republicans need to build a very big jail for those on the left abusing the legal system to keep Trump out. Doc says, Trump has made it through many hurdles and hasn't given up. Few thought he would continue through all this. He deserves our support, a modern day patriot. Yeah, every time they come after Trump, it feels like my support galvanizes a little bit for him. It's like, enough already. I'm tired of it. And every time that people don't see the unfairness, the injustice, it makes me like them less. Like Ron DeSantis, I'm liking less and less by the day because he's continuing this facade that these prosecutions are legitimate, and it's reprehensible. But all right, MAGA Hat is here sharing a comment about available paper ballots. Says 10% of the ballots in Arizona may have been compromised due to the wrong paper ballot stock being utilized. MAGA Hat is sharing this photo, looks like a good one, of Trump in court, artist rendition. Good photo on that, thank you. Says this one also, MAGA Hat. Says, some are saying that because Adams and Menendez, there is no two-tier. Did these rise to the level of creative and fake allegations against the president or former president? Well, look, I mean, I think that there is always corruption. I have no doubt that Adams is corrupt and that Menendez is corrupt, but I just think that the FBI is also not like a fair player, right? Like they're not just they're not even-handed. In other words, there's an ulterior motive for all of this stuff. It's not like they're just out there doing justice and just catching the bad guys. Like, it's the FBI. NY says the FBI leverages and is the fourth branch of government. Look at New York. He's a black Democrat who dared to complain about the border problem and boom, investigated. Right. Yeah, he was getting a little bit too verbal about the border collapse and they didn't like that. So you just take it and deal with it. And I think there's something to that. Menendez too, Menendez was getting a little bit too close to the sun, kind of challenging some foreign policy stuff. They just cross a line and they take him out. And it sends a message to every other city. Don't you even think about criticizing this immigration stuff lest you be taken out by the feds. Tony Hay says people let things slide up until it affects their pocketbook. Trump opened up Pandora's box and tells us what it is and helps us to stop it. Time to fight the evil. God helps those who helps themselves. He's got your back. Amen on that. Yeah, right. He does. And you're right. He does empower and strengthen a lot of us. But now people are recognizing that, inflation matters. Endless spending matters. Endless wars matter. Comes out of your pocketbook. You can't buy a house with mortgage rates at 8%. Doesn't work well. NY says they have effectively shut up New York City and Mayor Adams with their investigation. What I worry about is that they're even trying to be discreet anymore. Adams is a super delegate in the Dems presidential convention, FYI. Very interesting. I didn't know about that superdelegate status. Yes. Jigam says 2024 is going to be a busy, busy year. And she's right about that. Jigam, our meme smith in the house. Jigam, thank you for the generous dono. Jigam sharing this one. This is going to be what we fight here. Corruption! Get out of here! Right? That's your boy right there. Fighting corruption and just getting rid of this monstrous government bureaucracy personified. Get out of here. We got justice and liberty on our side, punk. Get the heck out of here. Voice of the People's here. Thank you, Jigam. Says, since Fang Fang's body was never found, there was a plane crash in China. I remember that, yeah. Could she have gone to this escort establishment for Swalwell and others? Yeah, maybe Swalwell was making bang bang with Fang Fang in these DC brothels. Nobody ever knows. It seems plausible to me. It's as good as explanation as any. In fact, no court of law has found that Eric Swalwell didn't make bang bang with Fang Fang in the brothel out in Washington, D.C. I've never seen any evidence to prove it didn't happen. So, as we know, that's what we can conclude. Let's say hello to our friends on the X platform. It's a beautiful Friday. Who do we have on the X? Man, we got some people here today. Very nice to see everybody. We got 14 viewers, man. 14 viewers, which means we are over 10. We're in double digits, which means Elon might even be here. I don't know. We'll have to see. But who is joining us? V says, all right, screw the ACLU. Okay, they burn their bridges. No one needs people who will flip on a dime. Danny says, they're not eliminated. They're on patrol. V's dropping this clip from Clue, which is talking about communism, which we watched yesterday. Good to see you, V. Fred says, Rob, I'm poor, but I will save up and send $500 super chat to never show Kaitlyn Collins again. Well, unfortunately, people go on her show. So I think we're going to have to cover her. Dapper Dan says, Ravik is here. Doc appointments all day. Raven Madness says, I'm going to need a chart to check all these trials. Yeah, what is this? Italian and U.S. intelligence testimony that the 2020 election was stolen from President Trump. What is that one? I'll have to look on that one. That's a good one. Dark Side Digital says, seeing how Smith wants to hold all but one page from Nada and all from the other defendants, one has to wonder if his goal is to try to make it seem like they were shown the docs or look unauthorized to try to discredit them. Interesting comment, Dark Side. Yeah. Yeah, and it might just be, like they're not president, so they just don't need to see it. But yeah, it's like they touch the box and there you go. Yeah, yet another great show today. Thank you, old drill sergeant. And George says, always appreciate how you censor. I have tender ears in the house and I greatly appreciate it as a parent. Love watching the Watchers. Hey, thanks, George. We try to keep it family friendly. Today was on that final segment. That was a little bit of a precarious one because we were talking about, all the insertion devices and things. But Bernie says, wow, so they have to go through 8 bazillion documents in no time at all. And M Money's here talking about some artwork. So if you want to look at some artwork, you can take a look over there. Canon, says Canon doesn't have the courage. Sad. And then this was Bill Barr. I actually really like this. I remember that when he was doing that, he put his pinky up. He put his pinky up there at the very end, right? There it goes. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. It was at some hearing when he was blasting some Democrat. Bill Barr can deliver a good one every now and then, but not recently. Used to. Anyways, all right, Vivek was on Patrick Bet-David. That sounds like a good one. Probably be listening to that one over the weekend. That, my friends, came in from our friends on X, and of course, everybody left now, so we're down to 8 viewers. So great, 14 down to 8. We're out of here. And so that is over on X, and that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Boy, we finished up a good week. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We'd love to see you there. Members, remember that we do after parties every day. We do member only shows in the morning, and we do Saturday streams in the morning. And so we'd love to see you watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We got some extra donos that just came in. We'll make sure we hit those. We got robertgovea.com, of course, is our website as well. Sign up for the daily newsletter, get access to all PDFs there, read the show reports, and more. First Amendment says 2 tiers. Should Trump use this issue to help get support from minorities? Well, I think that is actually happening already. I think people are recognizing that Trump is not being fairly treated, and many people think that justifies his supporting him. I agree with them. This one came in from Bodie, who linked us to the Indiana Jones map sequence, which we'll watch during the after party. Thank you for that, Bodie. We'll take a look at that one. Kelly R. is here, says, saw something today about a corrupt mayor in Michigan, how she's going after people who don't support her. Her recall was appealed. I have not heard of that one, Kelly. Thank you for bringing that up. A corrupt mayor in Michigan. You're kidding me. There's corruption in America? Sounds about right. I've not heard that one, but I will take a look at it, see if there's anything to attend to over there from Kelly R. Then we also have MAGA Hat Stays wrapping it up for us. Says, remember when the Dems finally got the Trump returns and they made a big deal that he charged interest on loans to his children, just like they're supposed to under tax law? Then they dropped it a day after, although they spent years saying he was hiding something because they wouldn't turn him over. Yeah, and didn't they get them like illegally? Like I think they were leaked by somebody in the IRS or something. And so that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Thank you so much for those very generous donos. We are going to wrap it up, head over to our members only after party. Before we do, we want to say shout out to our mods and our meme smiths who mod down the fort for us, our friends. Vienticus Prime, K-Bean, we got Just Cause in the house, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek 909, Dog Digger, and our friend Donut Mind Me, along with our meme smiths, Geegum in the house, Sleepy Dog Lee's on X, and our friend Nathan, N810, all memeing the fort down for us. But, my friends, that is it for us on the day. On the week, it was a busy one, and the next week is going to be just as busy. And so, as per usual, we've got to make it our intention to unplug from politics just a little bit so that we can recharge our energy tanks, fill up those battery packs, get outside, get some fresh sunshine, some air, spend time with friends, family, do something a little bit different to change it up, get some excitement back out there, mix it up, because we got to come back here refreshed, rejuvenated, and ready to go. There's a lot of work to attend to, and we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night and a beautiful weekend, my friends. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.